All right. We are back with episode 3 in Titletown Fantasy Football and Sports. Now, because John, Kyle through the leagues, he's going to start doing like daily picks and stuff like that. So pretty stoked for him to get involved and do stuff like that. But yeah, John and I had this idea to like come up with fantasy football content. And so here we are, just trying to figure it out, mucking our way through it. I think tonight we wanted to talk about, I have some rapid fire questions for John. John does more research in fantasy football than anybody that I know. And so I'm going to fire off a bunch of questions at him regarding some players to see what his thoughts are on the upcoming season. And he's got some stuff as far as trade targets that he was going to go after, or trade targets that he potentially thinks are good targets to go after for the 2025 season. So with that said, John, you want to introduce yourself? How many leagues are you in? What are you up to in fantasy football? What are your hobbies?
Yeah, John here. I do a disgusting amount of fantasy football leagues, primarily Dynasty, but also sprinkling some redraft leagues, some best ball leagues. Too much to admit. A lot of fantasy football. Sundays are holy.
Just started an Empire League together. John taught me what an Empire League was, and we're kicking it off right now. In fact, we're still waiting for Reggie White, and that is his real name, Reggie White, to make the pick, because he takes for effing ever to pick.
All day.
We've actually had to boot people from the league because they couldn't handle how long it takes him to pick. Come on, Reg.
That's not an exaggeration.
Back to you, John.
But yeah, live and breathe football. Sundays during football season are sacred. Wake up and do all my fantasy research and betting research and all of that stuff. So live in the Chicago suburbs. So been up here for a few years. So getting a lot of Bears exposure. Kind of a good time to be around the Bears, even though you would disagree with that.
Yeah,
I like what they're doing there. I'm optimistic. So
we're building something. We're building something.
I mean, hobbies. Football takes up a huge chunk of that. Whether it is fantasy football or betting, I'm a huge gambler as well.
Yeah.
Watching football. I mean, it's not just football. I'll go out and watch, baseball games. Mostly a college basketball guy, but I'll watch a little bit of NBA. I know that it's playoff time right now.
I know you like to bet on college football when college football is.
Love college football. Yep. College football, NFL, two favorite things to follow. So just a huge sports guy.
Tell him how much, but we'll tell him that John made a pretty good penny this past season betting on pro football, specifically touchdown parlays.
Yeah, I did.
It's awesome.
Very cool year. Got to keep it up.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we're John and I are excited to like fire this off. I know I made the first 2 videos, but like I said, John and I were the two we came up with like this idea of like creating fantasy football content. It actually spurred from, and I mentioned it in the first video, John and I had a Dynasty auction league, tight end premium, and he came over for the draft. I think it was like this past Sunday. And when I was looking for videos or like really anything to research on Dynasty auction tight end premium leagues, there was nothing out there. So then when we were done and John and I, were kind of like shooting shit around a fire, it just kind of like occurred to me that, hey, we both are in like a million fantasy football leagues. We eat, drink, and sleep football, not just fantasy football, but football and fantasy correlates into that. So why not make our own content? I think it'd be pretty fun.
Agreed. Yeah. Might as well branch out, talk about it. We already talk about it a bunch, so might as well bring it to video version.
Right on, man. All right. So with that, John, who is your first trade target that you're interested in for the 2025 season?
Yeah, so someone I'm really high on is Xavier Worthy. You already kind of know that. I think that it was, first of all, I'm just kind of shocked with how people view Xavier Worthy in the first place. Mm-hmm. I've seen a shocking amount of people online, whether it's on like Facebook groups or Reddit or Twitter or X or whatever. Like people are willing to sell Xavier Worthy for like a second round pick, like an early second round pick, mid second round pick. I think that is absolutely ludicrous to sell him for an early second. I think the Chiefs offense is only going to get more explosive. I think the floor has been seen the last couple years. Obviously low ADOT. They're not throwing the ball downfield. They've been extremely unhealthy. Worthy, battling the wide receiver room, never really being consistent. Whether or not it continues to be inconsistent or not, they're in a better spot than they have been offensively. I don't think that we're going to continue to see nothing but just dink and dunk from Patrick Mahomes. He wants to get back to an explosive offense. Andy Reid wants to get back to an explosive offense. They don't want to get by winning by 3 points, 23-20. So they're going to be more explosive. I think we've seen the low for the Chiefs. And I think Worthy has the opportunity between the end of last year and the beginning of this year, with Rice kind of recovering from that energy or that injury, to establish himself as the 1A here. Obviously, Rice is a beast. I'm not saying that he's a sell or anything. Honestly, he's kind of a buy too. I'm just kind of high on the whole Chiefs offense. I just think they're going to be more explosive. They're going to put up better numbers. Xavier Worthy had so many shots downfield last year where he had a foot out of bounds, or Patrick Mahomes just missed him. So many close calls and explosive plays. They're going to be more on the same page next year. We're going to get more of that downfield passing attack. I think Xavier Worthy's just going to have a great year. He's great for Dynasty and even redraft.
Yeah, man. Young dude. Super, super, super fast. I think he was the fastest guy coming out of the draft. What was it, last year?
Oh, yeah.
Rookie last
Record 40 time.
Yeah, man. So adding that to the Chiefs offense after, Tyreek Hill left, essentially, not saying that Xavier Worthy was Tyreek Hill worthy, no pun intended, but having that speed and that explosiveness. How does he fit in though with didn't they just draft Jalen Noel? Am I making that up?
No, so Noel went to the Texans. So the Chiefs they do have kind of a crowded room. They still have Travis Kelce there. They've got Rashee Rice coming back. I don't think Rashee Rice gets suspended this year. I think that's something that happens next year. So that is obviously something to keep an eye out for. They have Hollywood Brown. Who knows if Hollywood Brown is completely cooked or if he has something left. So, there is people to command targets there, but Xavier Worthy performed so well at the end of the year. He's a gadget player that they're going to manufacture targets for. He's also like Rashee Rice is going to be doing all the drag routes and shallow routes. Worthy's going to have more explosive plays this next year, I think.
Right on. Good pick. I like that. That's a good first pick. All right. Who is your second trade target for the 2025 NFL fantasy season?
Yeah. I also like Kenneth Walker.
Ooh.
Don't absolutely love him, but I am a big advocate I kind of like to buy low on players that have gotten that injury prone label.
Yep.
Because injuries are so unpredictable with football, especially with the running back position. I know he's missed at least 2 games every year, I think, in the league, but he's not missing drastic time typically. He was a workhorse in college. I don't think he missed any games as a starter due to injury at either Wake Forest or Michigan State. He was a workhorse, had some injury issues, but was playing games. He wasn't missing games. I'm not saying his injuries are fluky, because they're not like freak accidents like Saquon Barkley a couple years ago, where you can kind of be like, he can kind of bounce back, but they are, tissue issues, foot issues, stuff that can kind of linger and bother you. That is a concern, but I think that has lowered his value too much. Injuries are so unpredictable. I think he's getting the discount that every running back should get, that kind of discount for their injury, the possibility of all those touches and hits getting injured there. He's such a beast too. I think that he's just straight up better than Charbonnet at everything. He's a better runner. I think he's even a better pass catcher. He came out in the draft. That was a big knock on him, was his pass catching ability, and he wasn't very good his rookie year. Last year, he drastically improved as a pass catcher.
Wow,
I think he played in 11 or 12 games, and over half of those games he had 5 or more targets. So he was involved in the passing game, which, if that continues, perfect. And then Kubiak coming in, I think that's just a good scheme for him. If he stays healthy, and that is a big if, he's going to blow his ADP out of the water. He's going to blow his value out of the water. I think he's just getting discounted too much for injuries that can't predict.
Yeah. I'm a Kenneth Walker believer too, man. But that's a big statement. Kenneth Walker just better than everything than Charbonnet.
Yeah, I think he's just all around better. And also, Kenneth Walker, he's been around for a few years. He's still only 24 years old. He's a year older than HN, a year older than Bucky. He's a young guy. Okay,
so then I was actually going to fire this as one of my rapid fire questions at the end. But since you bring it up, running backs that had injuries last year or have had injuries throughout their career, still young guys. How do you feel about someone like Isaiah Pacheco, Javonte Williams? Like, where do they fall in your running back scope going into the 25 season?
I mean, I think they're fine for the 25 season. Like Javonte Williams. I mean, you saw last year, like the Cowboys didn't bring in anyone, and I mean, WADDLE did okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Javante's not going to do any better than that. He'll get touches, he'll get opportunities. You can throw him into a flex spot and get a few points out of him. He's not going to amaze you. I think he has zero value after this year. He's going to be worthless. Kind of the same with Pacheco. Kind of the same with Pacheco.
All right. Even Pacheco, man, Pacheco was getting like 14, 15, 16 touches, 20 touches before he broke his leg. I think he came back a little bit too early. I think when he came back, they had already established like Kareem Hunt a little bit. I know that they bring in Elijah Mitchell in the offseason, but I mean, really, is Elijah Mitchell like the dude
I
is
don't know.
injury prone himself? I think Pacheco, personally, I don't necessarily know that he's going to be like a game breaker. I don't know that he's going to like bring someone's fantasy football team from like, you know, basement to relevance.
He'll be reliable.
But I do think that I think he's like a solid RB3, RB4 maybe on your fantasy squad. Like you'll definitely want to have 2 to 3 guys ahead of him that you know.
I'd be happy with 3. RB3.
But Pacheco, I think, has a little bit of that sleeper in him now, where he comes back and he goes, you know, do we see him get 16, 17, 18, 19 touches a game at some point, you know, when he comes back? I know that the Chiefs really liked him before he got hurt, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they love him there. So
okay, who's your number 3 trade target? I don't even know how many trade targets you have, so I'm just going to say, who's your number 3?
So I kind of had an asterisk next to one because you've talked about him in another video, and that's Jordan Mason for the exact same reasons that you've said.
I love it.
Although, I mean, Jordan Mason is probably more of like a draft target than a trade target. I feel like if somebody has Jordan Mason, they know what they have, and they're not going to give him up for market value. But like his market value right now is just way too low because, as you had mentioned in a prior video, I mean, Aaron Jones just needs that compliment. Jordan Mason's going to get touches. And he's just, for a running back that's going to be maybe a 1B, like he's just going way too late in drafts. That's just such a powerful offense. He's getting touches. He's getting touchdowns. It's just that simple.
Yeah, you can't look past what he did in San Francisco when he had his chances last year. Like, I mean, the dude was absolutely incredible. Like, I made a stupid move in a redraft league last year, and I think I traded like, you're not even going to want to hear it, but like Puka Nacua got hurt and I was freaking out. Jordan Mason's like RB3, RB4, RB5, like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know if Puka's going to play. It seems like his knee's banged up. I think I traded Puka and like someone else for Jordan Mason, and I completely obliterated that redraft.
Ooh.
I'm an idiot. Don't take my advice.
I mean, I've done some trades probably worse than that.
Right on. Do you have any more targets? How many more do you got?
I've got my favorite one to throw out there.
Yeah,
I haven't given my favorite one yet. My favorite one is Jalen Waddle.
Ooh.
I've always been a huge Jalen Waddle fan, from the talent to the touchdown celebration to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of Alabama, I loved him. Incredible speed, good route running. He just had the whole package. He had a great year. His rookie year for the Dolphins, he was like a top 5, top 10 dynasty wide receiver, even after Tyreek had been brought in people's minds. And then obviously he had a down year. They were hyper fixated on getting Tyreek the ball. Last year was beyond disastrous for that offense with Tua and that whole passing situation. It only gets better from here for that Miami offense. Is Tua gonna, sustain good health for the long term? I don't know. Nobody knows. For right now, he's healthy. He seems to be confident, and the team seems to be confident that he's gonna be able to stay healthy and go out there and sling the ball around. I just think that they cannot possibly be any worse or even as bad as they were in the passing game last year. On top of that, Waddle, wouldn't be surprised if he's the wide receiver 1 at the end of the year in Miami. Tyreek's gonna fall off at some point. He's kind of been plagued with injuries. Who knows how much that's nagging him with age? Who knows how much they want to put up with him if he increases his divanness? I mean, there's so many factors there that it wouldn't be surprising to me if Waddle is the number 1 wide receiver there, with an offense that should be going back to being a good offense, and just a great player. Jalen Waddle is my number 1 trade target.
I think that's a really, really solid last trade target, number one trade target. I think like he definitely has the upside. Like I would say his ceiling is easily top 10 wide receiver. I mean, I don't see him any different than like a Garrett Wilson, for instance.
Oh yeah,
I
and
think
if Tyreek does get hurt, like if he
yeah,
misses time, Waddle's a wide receiver one in fantasy
yeah,
leagues.
man,
Like
he's a stud. I agree with that. That's a good take.
yeah,
How do you feel about the Dolphins running back room? Because I have A Chain in a few leagues, but I also was going a little bit heavy on Ollie Gordon and Jalen Wright. I was going after them with some late
yeah.
round draft pick trades.
Yeah, I love Achan. I mean, obviously, phenomenal player.
Mm-hmm.
You were wanting the volume out of him last year because he had the efficiency year one, but not the volume. And year two, he gets the volume and holds up.
Mm-hmm.
But the efficiency with that offense and Tua and everything just goes out the window. The efficiency, I think, is going to be back.
Okay.
He has now proven that he can sustain that kind of workload, at least for a year. That is my primary concern with Achan is at that kind of frame. Can
Mm-hmm.
he take 15, 20 touches every single game and continue to just, grind out games and get through the season? Otherwise, I mean, that's my only concern with him. Otherwise, if he stays healthy for the whole year, he can easily be running back one.
For sure. He's a stud.
So I mean that's the hurdle there. But obviously they have Wright, who was kind of popular last year, Ollie Gordon in the draft, who was a late pick, and I mean I think that they're going to want to preserve Achan. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they gave him the ball more than they wanted to last year, and they know that he's more efficient if they can rest him.
Yep.
So Wright or Gordon, most likely Wright, obviously to start. I mean he's gonna get carries. I wasn't always huge on Wright. I think he's fine. Ollie
Who,
Gordon, I do think is sneaky because
who fills that Mostert role?
I mean,
Someone has to, because
yeah, I
Achan's
mean
not taking
it's gonna
24
be
touches a
right
game.
unless Ollie Gordon just shows out. And Ollie Gordon, I mean, he can do that because coming into this preseason, he was I believe the consensus number one over Genty before the college football season started, and he just
Oh
had
wow.
an absolutely abysmal college football season. He had a terrible year, and his draft stock fell so far. So I mean, he was a highly touted prospect, and I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to me if he puts it together. I mean, he's not going to take over that backfield, but he could, get some of that Mostert role, get some goal line touches, get those touches to keep HN fresh.
Yeah.
I would prefer right at the beginning of the year. Wouldn't surprise me if Gordon does something though, just because he, maybe 1 year of terrible results. That's a fluke. I don't know.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I do have two groups. Man, not really groups. I have one group of questions that surround three wide receivers. I already know how you feel about one of them because we talked about it ad nauseum. But these receivers have all changed teams this year. How do you feel going into the fantasy season with DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, and or Davante Adams?
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I think Davante is going to have a fantastic 2 years. Davante Adams
Okay. That's
on the
fair.
Rams. I think Stafford's going to be there 2 years. I think Davante Adams going to be there 2 years. I mean, he's at least going to put up one great year, I think, replacing Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper Kupp didn't have a great year last year. I don't think that's because of Stafford or the opportunity in LA. I think, as we've discussed, that's because of Cooper Kupp. Um, Adams has not dropped off like Cooper Kupp has. Sure, he's not in his prime, but he's still a fantastic wide receiver. Stafford feeds his guys. He's going to be able to share targets with Puka Nacua, and we all know Puka Nacua isn't always going to be staying on the field. Hopefully he does. Going back to my point, injuries are completely unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if Puka misses time, I mean, you're getting insane numbers from Davante Adams. And going back to who you replaced, Cooper Kupp, I don't want anything to do with Cooper Kupp.
Wah, wah.
I wouldn't trade barely anything for him. And I just think it's because of one reason. If he had anything in the tank whatsoever, the Rams wouldn't have just let him go. With the relationship he has with the Rams and Sean McVay, the stats he put up, the relationship they had and the wins that they had and the success, there's absolutely no way they just ditch him unless he has nothing in the tank. I think he's completely washed. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. I don't want to wish ill upon the guy. Hopefully he goes out there and kicks ass this year. I'm out. I'm out on Cooper Kupp.
Out on Cooper Kupp. All right. DK
I
Metcalf,
think he's
in or
done.
out?
I am in on DK Metcalf. I don't love DK Metcalf, but I'm more in than out.
All right.
I mean, they're going to get Aaron Rodgers, right? So
Are they?
are they? I mean,
You might have Mason
I,
Rudolph throwing him the rock.
well, I mean, this is a gamble on talent again. He's by far the only. I mean, who's the number two? Roman Wilson. I mean, Pat Fryermuth isn't stealing a whole lot of targets from tight end spot. I mean, he's gonna be the focal point of that offense in the passing game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even I can deal with a year of Mason Rudolph if that's. I mean, if that's worst case scenario, fine. I mean, Mason, he's going to force him the ball. I think DK Metcalf will be okay. I like DK Metcalf a lot more if Rodgers does come to Pittsburgh.
Oh, absolutely.
Obviously, I just think that's actually a great match. Rodgers with his good deep ball, DK. I think DK have a great year. I like that he no longer has Pickens there. Just opens things up. They brought him in to be the focal point of that offense, and I think they're gonna follow through on that.
Right on. All right, I got one more question before we log off. And
yeah.
It's the least sexiest team in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
I know that you like this wide receiver that was just drafted. I've seen you take him in fantasy football leagues.
Yes.
I know you call him Tet, so you guys are on a nickname basis already.
He doesn't even like the name Tet. Yeah.
How do you feel about not only him, but how do you feel about Bryce Young, Xavier Leggett, I think is how you say his last name, and then McMillan?
Yeah. I was so iffy on Leggett, not just last year, but this year. I was more iffy on him. I'm more out on him this year. But he was an interesting prospect coming out of South Carolina because he was a fifth-year breakout. He didn't do a damn thing until his final year at South Carolina, and then he just went off. That's always kind of a red flag. Went to Carolina, didn't really break out in his rookie year with little target competition, kind of got beat out by Jalen Coker. So I'm still a little iffy on Leggett. I see the upside there. He's got like that prototypical build and speed for wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he still could put it together and be a good wide receiver. He may be just a nothing. He's very tough to like get a pulse on. Bryce Young and McMillan. I didn't even realize I was as high as I was on McMillan until you brought it up when I drafted him for the umpteenth time or whatever. Mm-hmm. I thought I was like pretty much right at market on him, but apparently I'm a little higher. Like people in our drafts, like Travis Hunter was going round and a half before McMillan, and I just think that was too much. I do like Hunter over McMillan, but not that drastically. I like what Carolina's doing. I like Canales. I like what he did in Tampa. I like what he's trying to bring over to Carolina. I think management kind of got in the way of that year one. And also just a lot of young guys, developmental pieces. Bryce Young obviously had to be benched, come back, do better. I like Bryce Young to continue where he left off last year. I think he will continue running the ball more, have success with that. He's got more weapons now with McMillan. I like Bryce Young a lot. Bryce Young is someone that I am targeting, and I could have put him in my trade targets. I do like Bryce Young with the rushing upside and the direction of that offense.
Right on.
And McMillan. I mean, McMillan, they brought him in to be the Mike Evans of that offense. Is he going to be Mike Evans? Probably not. But, I mean, like, nobody's Mike Evans. But, I mean, he's an absolute chain mover. He's going to be their just reliable receiver. Bryce Young is going to go to him when he needs him. He's going to grab first downs. He didn't get a whole lot of touchdowns in college, but I think they're going to use him as a great red zone target, too, with his contested catch ability.
Yeah, big dude.
His separation kind of worries me. That was like the only thing, but I just think he's got all the pieces to put together a good little career in Carolina there with Bryce Young and build rapport and grow together. So I'm in on the Carolina offense as a whole, kind of.
Are you a Chubaliever? Because I'm a Chubaliever.
I'm a Chubaliever, yeah.
Chuba is don't get me started on Chuba, man. Chuba, I love Chuba Howard. I think when he, not only did he sign that long extension, but even after he signed that long extension, he came out and just absolutely crushed it. I think he was like top 12 RB for like the last 8 weeks of the season last year. I mean, I'm big on Chuba this year. I think,
and I was such a doubter until he got that extension. I wouldn't have spent anything on Chuba Hubbard, and then he got that extension, and I was like, all right, I was wrong. He earned this. He's gonna get carries. Like Jonathan Brooks isn't going to come back next year and take the starting role. Like this is Chuba Hubbard's backfield.
Yeah, and I remember last year when you and I were having conversations about running backs coming out, Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks being the top two coming out in the draft last year. You were really high on Jonathan Brooks, man.
Yeah, and I've sold Brooks in every league. As soon as he got hurt again, I was like, I just don't think there's any coming back from that. Like J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Brooks scenarios like that. Like, yeah, the potential was there, and some people still think the potential's there. I'll cash in on that. I just don't think there's any coming back from that as a running back.
Right on. All right. Well, that wraps up 28 minutes of our episode 3. John, you're a guru at fantasy football. You know more than anybody that I think I've ever met, which is amazing. It's awesome to have you as a co-host on this stuff. So look for another episode in the very near future. But thanks a lot for watching right now, and all the best in fantasy football 2025.